It is the eye. But what layer is the arrow pointing at?
Hold on.
The choroid.
That is true. And could you identify the other layers if the arrow was pointed to it?
From the top going down is the ganglion cells. And then the bipolar cells. And then the photoreceptors and the choroid at the bottom.
Correct, where the arrow is.
Yes.
In between the photoreceptor and the choroid would be the pigmented layer of the retina.
Okay.
Any ideas?
Is that elastic cartilage?
Nope.
Hyaline?
It's hyaline.
Hyaline.
Is cartilage vascularized?
No.
Where could you find this cartilage?
The trachea?
That is one place in the cartilaginous C-rings, yes. There are many others, of course.
Shoot.
Are those neutrophils?
Those are neutrophils, yep. What about the other immune cell?
That's a monocyte.
Now what do they do?
Phagocytize for the monocyte.
Well, actually both are phagocytic cells, and they are part of your non-specific immunity.
The skin?
It is a skin, but that's not what it's asking you.
I think that's
Stratified squamous epithelium?
It would be. So what is the purpose of having stratified squamous epithelium?
Cell regeneration. To regenerate from friction.
So it is there to withstand friction, and it does have a high mitotic rate, correct?
Kidney.
It is the kidney. And what is at the pointer?
glomerulus?
It is. Good job.
The lobules of the kidney?
It is not kidney.
The pancreas. No.
Is this the liver?
It's the liver.
Yeah.
Oh, lobules.
And lobules are the functional unit, yes.
Dense regular?
It is. What is the primary fiber?
Collagen?
It is. And where could you find it?
Tendon?
You can find it in a tendon, absolutely. So what kind of tissue is this?
It's a duct.
Cuboidal.
It's simple. It's simple cuboidal. And where could you find this in the body? Yes. A duct from the kidney, yes. Specifically, a portion of the nephron is where you can find it. But you can find simple cuboidal cells in other places. Yesterday, I told you about the salivary glands. And there was a picture where there was a duct from a salivary gland that also had simple cuboidal epithelium.
Thyroid.
It is.
Follicular cells.
Okay, so follicular cells are there. So what hormone would they make?
Thyroid or thyroxine.
So thyroid hormone has two flavors, thyroxine and T3, triiodothyronine. But you're still missing one cell and a hormone.
Follicular.
Parafollicular. And what hormone are they releasing?
Calcitonin.
Correct.
Simple columnar.
It is not simple columnar.
This is the
Ciliated
trachea.
stratified columnar.
It's pseudostratified ciliated columnar. You can see the cilia up at the top of the cells, and in between them you have goblet cells. So yes, you could see this in the trachea. You could also see it below the vocal cords of the larynx. I just talked about this one.
This is a salivary gland too?
It is.
Okay.
Not two. This is the first time I've shown you a salivary gland today. So what kind of epithelium is the arrow pointing to?
Simple cuboidal.
It is simple cuboidal. You can tell because the cells are equally wide as they are high, and they have perfectly round nuclei.
Cardiac.
Skeletal.
Well, it's just asking you what tissue type it is. So it's muscle.
Oh, muscle.
Mm-hmm. Specifically, it is skeletal muscle. What is the arrow pointing to?
Those are the nuclei.
They are. They are nuclei.
Or that's an ovary.
It is from an ovary.
A follicle.
At the end of the solid pointer,
Structure at the end of the solid point.
it is a mature follicle.
The Graphian follicle.
Mm-hmm. And what cells are at the end of the dashed arrow?
Oh, those are the little baby ones. Primordial follicles.
That's true. That's the structure, but what cell is in them?
Granulosa.
Inside a follicle?
An oocyte.
It is an oocyte. Which kind?
The secondary.
Nope.
Primary.
Primary. And what stage of meiosis are they arrested in?
So phase one.
Correct.
Axon hillock.
So this is nervous tissue, and the green arrow is pointing at the axon hillock. And what kind of function does this region perform? It starts the all or none action potential.
Okay. That's the eye.
It is the eye. If you were to start at the top arrow and go clockwise, could you tell me the structures they're pointing to?
Is the first one the lens?
The first one up at the top,
The cornea?
this one right here,
Oh, yeah.
that would be the cornea, yes.
Cornea, lens, and then iris. Iris, then lens.
Iris, then lens.
Iris, then lens, and then what about the last arrow? It's also part of the vascular tunic. There are 3 parts of the vascular tunic. The iris is one of them. What controls the shape of the lens?
Ciliary body.
It is the ciliary body. And the last remaining part of the vascular tunic would be the choroid.
That's dense irregular.
That is loose areolar connective tissue.
Shoot.
You would find it in many places. It would be surrounding organs. What cells would you find here?
Fibroblasts.
Fibroblasts.
Collagen.
Collagen. Those are fibers, not cells, but yes, you would find fibers there.
Are those reticular fibers?
You would find all 3 fibers there.
Okay.
You would find reticular, collagen, and elastin. All 3 are present. There are also many more cells than just fibroblasts. You have a variety of immune cells there as well, like macrophages and mast cells that come from basophils, just to name a few more other cells that you would find there.
The lung.
It is the lung. And what is the functional unit of the lung?
Alveoli.
Yep. That one was a struggle yesterday.
This is nervous tissue.
Correct. So the cells are neurons. But where could we have taken this from?
The brain?
Yeah, brain or spinal cord. Absolutely.
The testes.
It is. And what is the structure in the bracket?
Seminiferous tubules.
Correct. Are the testes exocrine, endocrine?
Both.
They are both. So what is emitted when they are exocrine?
Or sperm?
Semen, right? Ejaculate. And what are they releasing when they're performing an endocrine function?
Testosterone or androgens.
Testosterone primarily, but also estrogen as well.
Okay.
Are these invaginations?
Is that the large intestine?
Small
Not
intestine?
small intestine. These are the villi, the finger-like extensions. And that's what we see at the pointer, the solid pointer. What's at the dash pointer?
Payer's patch.
And it is a colony of what?
Yeast cells.
Correct.
Cells. This is the pancreas.
It is.
And
Is it the islets of Langer?
The islets of Langerhans are at the end of that solid arrow, yes. And is this an exocrine or endocrine gland?
both.
Both.
It is both. What is it primarily though? Like 90% of it?
Exocrine.
Correct. And the pink line that is above the arrow?
The pancreatic duct.
Pancreatic duct.
Correct. And what hormones does it release from the islets?
Insulin and glucagon.
To name two, yes.
Yeah. And metastatin.
To name a third, yes. There are more, but those are the biggies.
The ear.
Well, it is the ear. I tell you that in the slide.
Because I can recognize these.
I know.
Okay. What structure? That's what is that?
Basilar.
So the green is the basilar membrane, correct? The black arrow.
Vestibular.
It is the vestibular membrane. And what is at the end of the blue arrow?
The tectoral membrane.
It is. And then what's in the circle?
The hair cells.
They would be part of this, but the overall structure has more than just hair cells.
The organ of Corti.
It is.
There we go. The tongue.
It is the tongue. What is at the end of the solid pointer?
Taste buds.
Correct. And what kind of epithelium is at the dashed pointer?
Stratified squamous.
It is stratified squamous. Again, to withstand friction, to also have a high mitotic rate, to rejuvenate the cells that have been sloughed off when we eat.
Lymph nodes.
That is a place where you would find
Can it be
reticular.
in the spleen too?
I'm sorry, what?
Could this also be the spleen?
You would also find reticular fibers in the spleen. Remember that the spleen has two different kinds of pulp. There's a red pulp and a white pulp. So there are different portions of the spleen, but yes, you would find reticular fibers in the spleen.
Okay.
What type of fibers and cells would you find?
And this is specifically from a lymph node, so what cells would you find here?
Lymphocytes.
Correct, T cells and B cells alike, both of them. So if we were to start from the layer that faces the lumen,
The epithelium layer?
that is, and what type of epithelium is most predominant in the GI tract?
Simple columnar.
It is simple columnar. Now, what about the second arrow that I'm highlighting in blue?
Submucosa?
That is actually the basal lamina that the epithelium anchors into. We're not to the submucosa yet. What about this layer?
The muscularis.
The muscularis, which one?
Mucosa.
Mucosae. Now, what about this layer in green?
Submucosa.
That's the submucosa. Correct. And then these two are considered to be what layer?
Muscularis externa.
Externa. Which one is this one?
The circular.
And then the second one?
Longitudinal.
Correct. And then the last arrow?
Serosal.
Rosa adventitia.
Correct.
Cardiac.
It is cardiac. And what special structure is at the end of the arrow?
The intercalcated disc.
Right. And their job is to allow the action potential to move swiftly from one cell to the next. And that's why our heart beats in a regular rhythm, what we call in syncytium.
I don't know.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
Is that ground? What is it? Ground substance?
No.
Hold on.
It is actually elastic tissue that you would find in elastic arteries like the aorta. So those wavy fibers would be found within the tunica media.
The skin?
It is a skin. Specifically, the arrow is pointing to the dermis of the skin. But which layer of the dermis?
The reticular?
It is. And so what fibers do we find there?
Reticular fibers.
See, that's where it gets misleading. It's dense, irregular connective tissue, and it's predominantly collagen.
Okay.
Predominantly collagen. Mm-hmm.
So does collagen look like reticular fibers? Those like black kind of stringies?
No, and in fact, you have to use a different stain to even see reticular fibers.
Okay.
It just because it's called the reticular layer does not mean that it has an abundance of reticular fibers.
Okay.
It is mostly, because it's dense, irregular connective tissue, the predominant fiber is collagen.
Question.
All right.
It looks like chondrocytes.
Those are chondrocytes. What kind of cartilage, since you said chondrocytes, it must be cartilage. So
Elastic.
it is elastic cartilage. Specifically, what kind of tissue is cartilage?
Connective?
It is connective. And then what is the function of elastic cartilage? It's to allow a structure to bend, flexibility, but more importantly, to spring back to its original shape, like the pinna of our ear or our epiglottis would be two places where you would find this.
Fibrocartilage.
It is, which is still connective tissue. Mm-hmm. And where would we find fibrocartilage?
Pubic symphysis.
That is one place. Another place you could find it would be in the intervertebral discs. And the purpose of it, and also the menisci of the knees, the purpose is to withstand compression and pulling forces.
No clue.
No clue? Well, you know it's an endocrine gland, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what endocrine gland could you have possibly learned about that has 4 layers to it?
Glomerulosa.
Yes, keep going.
Hold on. The kidney?
Well, they're on top of the kidney.
Oh, adrenals.
Oh, adrenals.
Mm-hmm.
I would never have guessed that.
Well, you would have, if it were multiple choice, I argue you probably would have been able to make a very educated guess, right?
I would have looked for a thumb. It looks like a thumb.
Well, a thumb is not an endocrine gland. If yours
Sorry, could you repeat that, please?
The three.
Layer 4?
Layer 4 was the adrenal medulla.
Okay.
Layer 1 was the zona glomerulosa. Layer 2 is the zona fasciculata. And layer 3 was the zona reticularis.
Okay.
So this is not histology, obviously, but it is a picture because I told a lot of you that were with me yesterday to look up pictures of the reproductive organs of the cat. This is definitely a male. For perspective, the structure labeled as number 4 is the cat's bladder. And the structure that's number 5 would be the cat's testis. And structure 6 would be the cat's penis. The cat's penis has been removed from all the fur. I show you another picture in just a moment here where the fur has not been removed. Right there.
Oh.
Yep. So that would be the tip of the cat's penis. And this is another picture of the cat, a male cat. The 2 testes are right here. And then this structure that you're seeing is a uterine horn. And it comes down like this. And up here, this little bulge is the cat's ovary. I'm going to show you another picture of the uterine horns of a freshly impregnated but dead cat. That would be this one. So here you can see the bladder. And you can see how swollen these uterine tubes are. Out here that I'm circling is an ovary. If this cat had not been euthanized, all those pouches that you're seeing in her uterine horns are basically kittens. They can get pregnant in each uterine horn and have a lot of kittens, obviously. So here is another picture of a uterine horn right here. It's more up close. And this bulge that you're seeing up at the top is the cat's ovary. And then this structure down here is the cat's bladder. All right, that is the end of that slideshow. Do any of you have questions?